I love having a podcast that has both solo episodes and also guest episodes. I'm a big believer that I can't teach you everything you need to know about entrepreneurship, which is why I love bringing on amazing guests. So what we've done is dedicated this episode to pulling out some of my favorite guest moments from the podcast so far. So we have 8 amazing moments ready for you, so keep on listening. Hi, I'm Brandon Lucero, and you're about to experience the new way to thrive in business, entrepreneurship, and life by leaning into who you are, what you love, and standing up for what you want to create. Get ready, because this is where we go against the grain, say no to outdated society norms, and we say yes to change in order to create a happier, more fulfilled world. Welcome to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. Today, we're going to do something a little bit different. We are coming up on our 100th episode, which is going to be a good one. But leading up to our 100th episode, I kind of wanted to go back through some of our guests and pull out some of my favorite lessons that we got from the guests. And so all I'm going to do is we're going to play the clip. I'm going to talk about it, and we're going to relive some of the best lessons that we've had from guests on the podcast. Now, keep in mind, there are a ton. And it was nearly impossible to go through and pull out every single lesson. But I went to my team and I said, give me a whole list of ones. I went through them and I picked the top 8. So here we go. These are in no particular order. Now, if you would like to listen to any of these full episodes, all you need to do is go back to our podcast in Spotify or iTunes or our website or wherever, and you can listen to those episodes. And I recommend you do, because even if you've listened to those episodes in the past, you're a different person now. You've learned, you've changed, you've grown, which means you might hear those episodes completely different. So the first one that we're going to play is from our guest, Rachel Duffy, who is also our head coach inside of our mentorship program. She was on the podcast talking about conscious parenting. So let's play this clip and then we'll talk about it. I understand this whole idea of being conditioned and the world telling me what to think and what to believe, but I'm like, I don't even know how to explain that to a 7-year-old. Like, I don't think they're going to get it. So I know it's a loaded question, but what are the first steps that we can take as parents to start having our kids be adaptable, go after what they want, follow the passions, and not be indoctrinated into the way society has been operating for the last 50 years?
I'll answer your question, but first I'll throw it back to you. What makes you think you need to do that?
I don't know. I'm not remembering who I am, I guess, or some kind of conditioning has told me that parents need to teach their kids that.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
That's exactly right.
So I love this clip with Rachel, because one of the things that we teach and how we teach messaging is really about understanding how humans form beliefs and how subconscious kind of controls our life and what is reality and what isn't. And one of the most powerful things that I've gone through is understanding how deep like my own conditioning goes and the conditioning of my audience, even to the point where I question how I think, like how was I educated? When we look at like the medical space, doctors are completely at the liberty of what the medical school teaches as far as it comes to health. And that's true with any education, really. And I don't think enough people question even how they think or how they were educated or what was taught to them. And that, this goes so deep in so many different areas. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying it's always, when you wake up to the fact that your thinking isn't totally yours and it has been influenced by a lot of people, you want to give that gift to your kid. You want to be able to teach your kids this and to be critical thinkers and to think on their own. And that's a very important thing to me. So I asked Rachel the question of how do we start to explain this to our children so they can be more conscious and aware of their thinking. And she asked that question of what makes you think that you're supposed to. And when it comes to parenting, one of the biggest things I try to do is to not indoctrinate my kids into how I am or how I think, but let them be their own people. And in this conversation with Rachel, I realized that just by getting them to critically think or be aware of conditioning is almost me trying to manipulate their own journey. Because when I look back at my own journey of being a human being and then going down one path. And then all of a sudden for me, it was Landmark Forum that opened up this whole idea of different perspectives and how the mind works and attaching meaning. It was so revolutionary. It was like the ultimate thought reversal. And that was so profound for me. And that experience was so profound that I realized I might even be robbing my kids of having a very similar experience. And the whole conversation with Rachel was like a giant thought reversal when it comes to parenting. And that's why I love that clip, because you got to see myself have a whole paradigm shift when it comes to parenting just from one simple question. And that question was, what makes you think you're supposed to? And it also should demonstrate and show you how powerful a question can be as a coach or a mentor to other people. So I love that clip. I think this episode was full of a ton of episodes just like this. And I recommend everyone go and listen to that episode. So the next one is actually with Bob Helig. And I do believe that this episode with Bob Helig was one of the most powerful guest episodes that we have ever done or had on this show. One of the reasons why is I think Bob is just, I mean, he's on fire. This guy's unstoppable. But when you hear his story, there is just a massive transformation in who he was to who he is now. And what he's doing now, he would have never guessed he was doing, 10 years ago. So let's play this clip from him and dissect what he talks about.
If you just had the courage to show up and just talk, teach, and help, you could have been successful.
Not a lot of competition back then.
Yeah, it's not the same today.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had to really evolve and grow. And, taking your course was one of the greatest things that I've done for my business in the last year, because it really forced me to be smarter about my messaging. And messaging for us has catapulted our business into the next stratosphere, because I reached a point where doing what I was doing, my business plateaued.
Yeah.
And it was plateauing at an amazing level. I'm not complaining, but I was like, how do we get it? Like, there's something missing. How do we get it to the next level? So I had to reinvent myself. And a big part of that was, the way that I was thinking about what I was doing.
So what I love about this episode, or this clip in particular, is that I think Bob's story has a lot to do with evolution and embracing, stepping off the cliff and hoping the net appears, having the courage to go after what you want, and understanding that when you're plateaued, something has to give. There has to be some kind of shedding or letting go or evolvement that has to happen. And listening to Bob's stories, he's always leaned into evolvement, which I think is an evolution, which is a very necessary part of entrepreneurship. And his most recent one was working with us because of his message. And there was something that he said in the beginning of that clip was that, 10 years ago with an online business, you just had to show up and teach and add value in that way, and you would be successful. But you can't do that anymore because there's so much competition. And Bob realized that and recognized that and had to shift his entire messaging of his company. But the same thing for you is that if you think that you can just show up, teach the same thing that 50 other people are teaching in the same way, and you're going to be successful, you probably have a very long and hard road ahead of you. Learning how to communicate and learning how to talk differently, learning how to teach differently, learning how to discover new things that people haven't discovered so you can teach things that people haven't taught, which is mastery, is absolutely vital. And so to see Bob come in and to see his evolution and to hear him talk about all the different stages of evolution and evolvement that he had to go through in his journey was a really powerful, powerful episode, just because who he is today is not even close or remotely to who he was when he first started. And it's going to be the same for you. So I'm excited for you guys to go listen to that episode. It's one of my favorites from this past year. This next one's from Jesse Ecker. And this was a really great episode as well. Jesse teaches people how to run events as a sales mechanism for audience growth, authority, and for sales. So let's play his clip and we'll dissect what he talked about.
Everything was easy compared to now, right? There was no one online. It was easy to get to the top really quickly with that asset. So I was just, guns blazing, foot on the gas pedal, do not lose focus, because it was a time where it's work for 5 years and you set yourself up for the next 20, right?
Yeah. It's like when Google clicks were a penny, back in the day. It was the wild, wild west. And I remember Facebook ads. I remember sometimes running campaigns and they were you get leads for under $1. I mean, it was just stupid how easy it was and how cheap the leads were. And now it's like $20 leads and all, it's harder now. Okay. So Jesse's almost saying the same thing as what Bob was saying, is that way back in the day, it was a lot easier. You can make mistakes and get to the top because there wasn't a lot of competition. And there are 5 levels of market sophistication. And level 1 is basically you're the only choice, so people come to you. But as competition comes in, that goes away. Like if you're the only grocery store in a town, you're not going to go out of business because people need to eat and you're the only option. But when there's 5 different grocery stores, you may go out of business. And that's what's happening right now is there's so many experts and so much awareness of the online space that you have to be able to separate yourself. You have to be able to do something differently. You have to be able to communicate differently than everyone else. Bob's saying the same thing. Jesse's saying the same thing. Now more than ever, messaging is important. Messaging gives you that positioning that separates you from everyone else. And so what I loved about Jesse's episode is he talks about his growth as well. And he's talking about back in the day, it was very easy. So he went all in. And there are things right now that you could be doing and going all in on that could separate you from everyone else, make you different, give you the edge you need, but it's your opportunity to take it or to not take it. So it's up to you. And this leads me into this episode with James Cooper, because this is, although he's talking about movies in this particular clip, he actually talks about something that's important for messaging as well, and something we're leaning more into in our program. But I love this episode with James because he was a student of ours, and he basically went from brand new product, seeing success with it, to the pandemic hitting, losing all of his business and rebuilding it to about $30,000 a month. It's such an amazing story of adaptation, hearing how he's positioning himself, seeing how he's adapting to the changes with his offerings. It was a great episode, but let's play this clip and then I'll talk about it afterwards.
If the company or the director has done their job, they should remain invisible. It's like when you notice the music in a movie, there's something wrong there. They missed the mark somewhere, because you shouldn't be listening for the music. You should be watching the movie. Right. And the music creates a mood and a tone that makes you feel, it accentuates what's going on in the movie. So anytime you notice things, like you notice the lighting or notice the sound and stuff like that, it's taking you out of the moment where you're supposed to be completely encapsulated in what's going on. And I think that translates to marketing as well. Weird copy that just kind of doesn't make, like, it rubs you the wrong way, or it doesn't make sense or stuff. Those are all things taking you out of the moment. And I try to translate that to video as well. It's like, what are the gut punch moments we can create that just create that make people want to take the next step? And I think that marketing has become a series of micro commitments that you need to make sure each one is a pebble or a stepping stone or a breadcrumb that leads you to the next thing. It's much different. It's evolved so much, where we used to depend on one advertisement to get people to buy. Now it's a series of things that have to happen in a certain order that make people want to make a decision.
So I love this clip, and there's so many lessons just in that clip. But when he talks about movies and he talks about you paying attention, what he's really talking about is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind should be on autopilot, consuming, not paying attention to the camera angle or the lighting or the music that just started. And anytime there's something abrupt or something that doesn't flow or something that doesn't make sense to your subconscious mind, it awakens. It has to start thinking what's going on. And I think messaging that doesn't require people to think is the most powerful form of messaging. People shouldn't have to think about what you're saying. They should automatically feel. Just like in a movie, you should automatically feel some kind of emotion. When people hear you speak or they watch your content, they should feel something automatically. They should know automatically that they trust you. They should know automatically that they connect with you or they don't. They should know automatically whether they want to work with you or they don't. But hardly anyone takes an approach when it comes to messaging that is subconsciously driven. That is allowing the person to make a decision or to feel a decision without requiring them to think. It was so brilliant the way he said it, because that transition from how a good movie should be is the same way that marketing should be, the same way that messaging should be, but hardly anyone talks about it. That's something we're diving more into in our new program, the New Generation Mastery, and something we'll probably be incorporating more inside of the podcast. But if you want to hear James's story about how he's grown his business, a little bit more on his take on this perspective, head over to that episode with James Cooper and give it a listen. So this next episode is actually from our most downloaded episode on the podcast. This has officially become the most downloaded episode, which is all about manifesting with Catherine Zenkin, Manifestation Babe. And I'll play this clip in a second and talk about it. But this episode is also our longest episode. It was 1 hour and 40 minutes, and it flew by. It happened so quick, so fast. Such an amazing episode. But let's play this clip, and then we'll talk about what she says.
Nothing happened for 6 months.
Uh-oh.
And most people, what would they do? Nothing. Freak out,
Yep.
give up, say it doesn't work. But I made a commitment. This is why I recommend people, like, don't do it one day, don't do it a week, do it for a full year. I think a full year is a good amount of time for you to be like, is this working for me or is this not? Because 6 to 8 months, I had like 3 failed launches. And then I started creating courses with Manifestation Babe, just like mini courses, really selling to my Beachbody community, just like stuff outside of fitness. Like, here's how you can, this is fitness for the brain. Buy my course, $33, you know?
Yeah. $33, that's what it was?
It was $33, my Manifestation Masterclass. And then I created like some freebies and stuff like that. And let me tell you, the amount of thank yous and testimonials and like, this actually works. You helped me so much. You saved my life, Catherine. I never once got from like my Beachbody people.
Yeah.
It only came through Manifestation Babe. And I was like, this is so interesting. I think this is a sign that I should go full force with this.
Okay. So if you've never met Catherine, she is a force to be reckoned with. Like, when she teaches manifesting, I've never seen someone manifest things quicker and faster in their life. When she believes something, she believes it to the core of her being. And just to see what she's created over the last couple of years has just been unbelievable. So to hear her story was so inspirational, and it was just an amazing episode. But what she's talking about here is something that I think is so important. And this is listening to the signs around you. This is all about being in alignment, your purpose and your dharma. When we talk about messaging, I talk to you, especially in our new program, about this, about leaning into what you want to do. I remember when I used to teach YouTube, I didn't want to do it anymore. And I leaned into what I wanted to do, and we saw mega success. I needed to do the YouTube stuff as a stepping stone to get to where I am today, but there came a transition period. And that's what Catherine was talking about, is you have to be aware of these transition periods. You have to remember who you are, be aware of what your purpose is, and your purpose may change. You may be doing what you do right now just because you need the experience for something more. And when that opportunity for something more appears, it is up to you to take it. And that's what Catherine did. That's what a lot of entrepreneurs do. They know that what they start with won't be what they end with. And that's what Catherine's talking about, is she got to a transitional period and realize this thing over here, when I talk about this to this audience, is doing really well. That's what I want to do. That's what people are responding to. I'm going to swim downriver instead of upriver, and I'm going to lean into it. I don't care what I've been doing for the past year or 2 years. This is what I should be doing. I'm going to do it now. I'm not going to waste any of my time. I'm not going to waste any of my life doing something I shouldn't be doing anymore. I've learned the lessons. It got me to this new foundation. And now I'm at this new foundation. I'm going to move on to where I need to go now. And she was able to do it and blew up into a multi-million-dollar business. This is such a great episode. Okay, so this next one is from Michael Alaniz, and I know exactly what clip this is, and I know how powerful it is. So I'm just going to play it, and we can talk about it after. So here we go. You bought a book, and then you get on the phone with Google. Why were you getting on the phone with Google?
My previous work background was in insurance, and as an insurance agent, you don't necessarily sell a product you own. You represent a large insurance company. And I had learned in reading the book that if you call this phone number, Google will actually help you for free set up an account, like a campaign, answer questions. And that felt very similar to the way as an insurance broker, I used to call the insurance companies and ask questions about their stuff. So I thought, here's this like multi-billion-dollar company I could lean on. Let me really finagle myself and lean on them. And this thought that hit me was, there's this story of Steven Spielberg where the way he got started was he had a pass to go to Universal for like a week, like a backstage pass as an intern. When it expired, he just kept going and like kind of flashing the pass, but the guard would just wave him in. He kept coming in, just talking to people. So I thought, what if I just call Google for like 30 minutes, an hour, ask a ton of questions, annoy them, hang up the phone, call back in, go to somebody else, and kind of force a free education of Google Ads for myself. So I would go to this Winchell's Donut daily with the book, circle something that I want to learn more about, call them, take notes, implement it, and just progress like that.
Okay, so I love this because entrepreneurs have to be scrappy. Sometimes I think people get into entrepreneurship and online entrepreneurship in particular because we think it's going to be easy. We can just hide behind the screen, we can put up content, we can sell a course or a program, it's passive income. And I always say that I think, in my opinion, sometimes online businesses like this are the hardest ones to start because you have to drive the traffic, create the traffic, and then you have to convert it. A lot of other businesses don't necessarily have to do that. And I don't think a lot of people, I think a lot of people don't talk about the bad and the ugly behind business and what it really takes. Like I had to walk door to door selling things. I had to work for free. It took me a lot of years to build this business, a lot of years of being broke, living with my in-laws. I had to sacrifice a lot to start this business. And so did Michael. And what he's talking about right here is that failure wasn't an option. He wanted to learn Google Ads and offer it as a service. He didn't just say, oh, I don't know how to do it, or I don't have a mentor. He literally went to Google himself and went to the hotline and called the hotline every day to talk to one of the reps on how to do something. Every paid agency or platform has that available. Facebook has it. Google has it. You can go there, ask them any questions. They're not going to give you a whole tutorial on everything, but if there's one thing that you didn't know, he would call. And then he would call the next day and the next day and next day. And then he got a free education from Google itself on how to run AdWords. He now had the knowledge and now had the know-how of how to offer this as a service, and then went out and sold it and offered it and built his business off of it. I don't think a lot of people, as entrepreneurs, let me put it this way. I don't think there's a lot of quote unquote entrepreneurs out there who are willing to do what it takes and are creative problem solvers to be able to go figure out a solution. They get one roadblock and they give up. They get one roadblock and they quit. They get one roadblock and they complain. They get one roadblock and they say, why me? And it's okay to say, why me? But you need to get yourself back up there and figure out a solution. As a business owner, you are nothing more than a problem solver. That is it. That is your sole job, is to solve problems for other people, and then solve problems within your own company as they come up. That's what I love about Michael, is that he had a problem, found a solution, and went and did it and didn't care what anyone else says. And that story about Steven Spielberg, about flashing the pass and going past the guard, he did whatever he had to do to get the experience, to network, to meet the right people. That's what entrepreneurship is about. And if you're not willing to do those things, you might have a tough time building a business. And I think that leads us into Jared Morris, who is one of my good friends, but I just love his take on business because it's just no BS, straight to the point. He's going to tell you how it is and what the solution is. We've actually had him on the podcast twice, and both of his episodes are phenomenal. So go listen to those, Jared Morris. But let's play his clip and hear what he has to say today.
For everyone listening, it just goes, I think you're at this inflection point, and you and I have spoken about it multiple times.
Yep.
Is this accreditation nonsense, this education nonsense where you graduate from your college with your MBA or your 4-year or whatever? They're worthless. They're absolutely worthless. Nobody wants to talk to you. No one cares about your stupid sheet of paper. No one cares about your GPA. They don't anymore. And the problem is your mom and your dad or your uncle, they're telling you, hey, you need this education, because they don't know what to tell you, because the game has completely changed, and they can't tell you that they don't know.
Right.
So you're listening to these people. They love you to death. They're trying to help you, but they're trying to help you with limited information.
Yeah.
So for everyone that's, struggling with school or what to do, just understand it comes down to, can you make your phone ring? What are you actually doing with your time? What are you building on your own without anyone else? You're the one who will get the job. you're the one who will succeed. You're going to smoke everybody with the education, everybody with a great last name that gets a job. You're going to beat them, because at some point the last name is not going to pull weight.
Yep.
And you are going to come roaring past them because you have a process in which business is driven.
Results, experience, and knowing and mastery are the things that you really need in order to grow a business. Times are changing, and this idea of you're going to go get a degree and get a well-paying job, it just doesn't exist anymore. And companies, and again, this is not 100% across the board, but because there are certain jobs that need degrees, but the ability to generate your own income on your own is going to be a thing that you're going to need in the future. With AI, with robots, with companies outsourcing things, with software, it's just going to start happening. And as that happens, we also see opportunities to make your own money. We see things like Uber. We see things like Airbnb. We see things like those that require people, like DoorDash and stuff like that, that can make their own money through a system on their own terms. We also see a lot more entrepreneurs starting their own business. We see a lot of people starting their own things. I've seen it now more than ever, especially within a lot of moms in our community who are home, who have problems that they're solving. That's just my own world. And I think that this idea that you need a certain degree is going to start going out the window or leading to a lot of problems for a lot of people. And that's what Jared's talking about. He says at the end of the day, there's one thing that businesses all need. They need sales. Businesses are literally designed to profit. That's what they're designed for. Otherwise, you would have a nonprofit. They're designed to profit, which means they need sales. Whether you work for another company or you work for yourself, if you can make the phone ring, you learn sales, you learn marketing, you will never have an issue making money, no matter what industry you're in. I know with my knowledge and my expertise, I can go into a lot of different fields and become successful. Even if I was working in corporate, I would be very successful on working up the corporate ladder because of my experience. And sometimes so many people are so afraid to go out and get the experience. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of what if it doesn't work? The experience is literally the thing that you need in order to succeed, whether you're in corporate or you're on your own. And Jared brings up a great point that your parents and all these people that are giving you advice, they don't know what else to tell you. They're just telling you what they think is the best advice. You really need to be careful who you're taking advice from. And if you're trying to build something or get results in something, and you're taking advice from someone who's never achieved those results, it may be time to question who you're listening to. That was an amazing episode with Jared Morris. I have 2 episodes from him. Both of them are amazing. So go listen to those if you want to hear more. And our last and final episode comes from a student and a fellow business owner. Her name is Kat Elizabeth. So let's listen to what she has to say, and I'll break down what she says after the clip.
The first thing that I realized, because you talk a lot about sitting in the silence, and I'm someone who is very impatient, and I definitely spent the 12 months in the lead up to joining the program rushing through everything, because I was like, well, I've got all the formulas, I've got all the templates, plus, like you said, like I'm good at doing this for everybody else. Right. So I should know all these things. So the first temptation was to just like speed through. And then when I got to the part of like scripting videos and really trying to figure out what videos I was supposed to create, I was like, oh, you have to go back to the beginning again. Like you are not ready for this. You have to figure out like really get inside the head of your client in a way that you never have before, and really understand what is keeping them stuck and what is keeping them from even knowing that they need your help. And just throwing more how-tos at them is just not the solution. It sounds so strange. It was a little bit of like a spiritual awakening in that I started approaching my business differently. Like every single time I was on a call with a client, I was learning from what they were telling me and reading between the lines and starting to go, oh, like this is the real reason they come to me. And I've been speaking to the kind of surface level stuff that I thought that they were looking for. but there is a deeper reason that they're stuck. And so that allowed me to then realize that I need to repackage my framework. I need to stop approaching it from the things that I thought that they wanted, and add in the layers of the stuff that I know is going to really provide the transformation. And then that led me to changing my programs. It led me to changing my website copy. Like, it was literally like months of just this frustrated, like having to feel a little bit stuck and slowing down.
Yep.
But then what happened afterwards was it started to speed up again. And I started to see, oh, okay, like it's worth doing this work, even if it slows you down for a while.
Slow down to speed up. That is a piece of advice that I got, I think from James Wedmore is the first person that told me it, but it's so true and so necessary inside of business. But this is what I love about what we do. And to see Kat's growth from when she entered the program to where she is now, we actually had a whole episode breaking down her journey and how she's grown her business. I should probably follow up with her, but I remember a year ago, she was over $25,000 a month with her program. And what we've been getting good at, and even better now, is mixing that feminine and masculine energy, which is, here's all the frameworks. And that's what most people think they need. They need the framework. They need to know what to say. They need to know the language pattern. They need to know the strategy. But there's a whole side, and that's the masculine energy. Tell me what to do. Then there's the feminine, which is the invisible things, getting very clear on who you are, remembering who you are. What is your purpose? What is your dharma? What is the message you want to say? Let's turn off the external world. Are you in alignment? Those are all the things that we need to incorporate into the frameworks to get them to work, which is why if you zip through our program, you're likely not going to get the results that someone who took the time is going to get. Messaging is a evolvement. Messaging is a journey. You have to go slow through it. You have to really dive in, and that allows you to get beneath the surface and discover things that other people haven't discovered, which is why I wanted to end with this clip, because this is one of the most powerful messages that I think we've had on the podcast that I tell our students, which is, it's not just about the frameworks. If you fill the frameworks up with nonsense, surface level crap that everyone else is saying, it doesn't matter if you put crap in a thought reversal framework, it's still going to be crap. The framework is not what saves your messaging and saves your content. It's the discovery of going beneath the surface and speaking to the subconscious mind of your audience, speaking to their values, speaking to their beliefs, understanding the mistakes they're making. And what Kat was talking about was meeting your audience where they're at versus trying to meet them where you're at. You need to meet them where they're at and take them to where you are. You don't talk to them about what you think they need or what you think they want or what you know they're going to need. You meet them where they're at, and you bring them to where you need them to go. So those are some of my favorite moments from the guests that we've had on the podcast so far. So if you've enjoyed this episode, tag us on Instagram, let us know. And if you haven't yet, please leave us a review on Apple iTunes, and review the podcast and let us know how you like it. So if you have something positive to say, head over there, leave us a review. I'd be so grateful for that. And thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see all of you on next week's episode. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out another episode of the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, go below, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you click on that bell icon and get notified every time we drop a new episode. Now, if you're looking for the show notes, we have them linked underneath this video, as well as our social media handles and some links to free training and offers that we drop from time to time to help you guys even further. So go check those out if you're interested, and thank you so much for tuning in to the New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast.